Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is Franz Sidney. So, welcome. Create with Franz. How can we create the life that we want and we always wanted to have? And it's not happening. And we're going to talk about this very, very interesting field with a psychologist all the way from West Virginia, and it's Dr. Audrey Schnell. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad I have you, Audrey. And we're going to talk about a lot of hot topics. And
Yes.
what is the topic? How are we going to help you guys today? Well, it's very simple. See how many boxes you can tick. All right. So, stressed every day. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling your health issues are coming and going, but they're always chronically there, bugging? It's not quite sure what it is, just coming. You kind of lost it. And you can never decide. And if somebody asks you, say, okay, what's your purpose? What do you want in 10 years? You're like, I don't know. If you are feeling like that and you just keep going, it's the same grinding thing, you might even turn to alcohol or porn or lots of books or shopping and addictions, because it's becoming really difficult. Even if you don't turn into this, but you're feeling that something is not right. This episode is for you. And we're going to talk all this and beyond with Dr. Schnell. And how many people do you see with these symptoms in your office?
And actually, just about everybody. So much of what you described, some people will come in just numb. You ask them what they want, they don't even know. They're just in what we call survival mode. It's, you ask them if they have dreams, they can't remember the last time they had a dream. They're just going from day to day, and they know some things, and maybe they've even forgotten what it felt like to feel good, but they know something's not right.
So that must be quite frightening. You think maybe my marriage is over, maybe I'm in the wrong job, but everything should be okay. I'm supposed to be happy. Why am I not happy? So what's going on deep down? What do you find is the issue?
What deep down is, like I said, they don't even realize that they're in survival mode. Just the symptoms you've talked about. They're stressed, they're numb, everything seems overwhelming. And underneath it all is just this lack of intention and a lot of self-doubt and fear.
Self-doubt as well.
Yeah, I think that, we're not always giving people good information. Everything that's out there, I call it the dangers of pop psychology. We're not helping people really dig down into what's going on. We give them, oh, I have imposter syndrome, that must be the problem. Or I'm married to a narcissist, that must be the problem. And so they latch on to labels, or, we give them they take some kind of popular, not valid personality test. And it's like, well, this is just how I am. I'm an introvert, so I can't expect to be happy around people or whatever it is. And they stop digging into what they're really feeling, what they really want, and they're just consumed by fear. We live in a really complex society now. Everybody thinks they have attention deficit disorder because we live in such a distracting world, and we weren't taught the skills to deal with it.
Yes. I'm going to interrupt you there because, yes, I was on Facebook, a comedian. Sometimes at lunchtime we do a little bit of comedy, just self up with my daughter. And there was this comedian who was talking about ADHD. And she said, I just got diagnosed with ADHD. My friend Lisa diagnosed me, told me I have it. And I found out that apparently everyone has ADHD now. And then he says, she's a pandemic, it's contagious. As soon as you have ADHD, you go to diagnose 10 people around you.
Yeah, exactly. And we just don't see what we don't see, and we get involved and we create drama. Another common, I would say, scenario I see is people who get really, really close to their goals. You know, maybe it's starting their own business or running a half marathon, and they're almost there, and then something trips them up and they get sick, or there's some family drama or something else happens that sidetracks them, and they don't see the connection, you know, that fear. And not to sound too woo woo, but something comes up that derails them every time, and they don't see that pattern.
It's nothing woo-woo. This happens. You are just there and you're about to do something, and then your life changes. And really look, could be a variety of reasons, but sometimes we are repeating the same patterns. Like last week, I was reading about a lady, full lady, everything, but then she goes, I don't know why every person I say, either, you know, I get married and we divorce, or I don't know, we're dead and they disappear in 3 days. Everyone is using me. It's nasty. First they say they love me, and then within a few days, just using me, etc. And then she goes, in my life, I had an abusive situation at home. I'm not going into detail, but it was a really bad situation at home. How can it? I only get abusive people, and everyone was there trying to this pattern. You're so used to this familiar being used by people and not being seen as enough. That's what you are attracting, because people can feel the vulnerability. And that was just the tip of the comments, but why do the same stuff? And then we end up, so we keep doing the same mistakes. And we end up being always chronically stressed and overwhelmed and tired and unfulfilled, but we keep doing it again. What's going on?
Yeah, well, you know, it's a combination of, and I could get really psychoanalytical here because that was some of my training, but, you know, we keep repetition compulsion. We keep repeating, you know, the same pattern in hopes to finally cure it. But the real answer is not, there's no cure. It's shifting our perception of what's normal. You know, we repeat what we're comfortable with. It's the lens we see the world through, so that when the person who always finds an alcoholic partner finds another mate who drinks, they don't see the pattern. You know, that's just how it is. This is
how it is.
What I do.
Yeah. So after baby, we are wired to be acquainted until it is familiar. Whether it's good or not, we don't care. That's familiar, so we're just gonna go for it because we know that. Yeah.
And it's our unconscious radar. And when I remember this, I think a professor used this phrase in college. So now, the last thing the fish understands is the water. When that's all you've seen, it's the only thing you know, and you don't even know there's anything else out there. We've constricted our world, and that's so much of what I help people with, because they don't realize that what they're facing is this, they've cut themselves off. This is all they know, is the stress, the overwhelm, the same situations, and it becomes their water. And in order to get out of the water, you have to know that there's land ahead.
And open to the possibility, understanding. Like sometimes when I talk to my own dog, I say, oh, how about we do this, we do that. Oh, I can't do this because of a problem. I can't do that because I have that problem and that problem. Right. And it's like a wall built so she cannot do certain things. But I say, well, if you just try a different approach, and she's like, no, it will happen. This will happen every time. So she's like, and she's only 16. So imagine as we, and also in this society where information no longer comes from experts, it's coming from like the media, from propaganda, and everyone is in need of these special pills within. And well, how about some introspection, actually looking they're doing sometimes?
Well, yeah, exactly. And, you know, there's so much coming at us. And And in fact, knowledge isn't even enough. If knowledge were enough, nobody would smoke. We need more than knowledge. Um, we need to be able to take the next step. And so much of what people hear, at least in the coaching world, is, oh, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Well, yeah, your goals may be out of your comfort zone, but your next step has to be in your comfort zone or you won't take it.
Right. What does then in practical terms? So if a person comes to you today, right, I have all these symptoms, I can't even dream. And in fact, you see Britain's Got Talent. I believe the dream was true. Everyone, I've done it. I could sing this song. I could do this performance. Most people think, oh, now I'm 40. I can never do that. I'm 30, I didn't get married, so that's it, I'm done. I'm 50, I didn't have it, I'm done. We just build this. So what is your process for getting all this in the right mindset so we can see future?
I think first of all, I would say having I can see what they can't see. So the first step is really to build trust. Because I'm going to tell them there are no monsters under the bed. I'm going to tell them they can run a marathon. They're not going to believe me if they don't trust me because they don't think it's possible. So the first step is to really build trust and the relationship. And then to start to build an evidence list of, okay, what have you succeeded at? You're telling me, you're not successful. That's probably not true, or you wouldn't be here. Let's look at the evidence. What have you been successful with? So we build an evidence list. It's almost like being a lawyer, this is the rebuttal to, I can't do that. Well, look at the things you have done. So it's a step-by-step process of overcoming the inner critic, the self-doubt. And it's not just about confidence, because confidence comes and goes. It's like love. I mean, sometimes we feel intense love, sometimes we don't. So it's getting the person to see what's possible and presenting a realistic next step that they can take towards their goals and defining what they actually want. And then comes the deeper work of realizing what their fears actually are.
The fear of never being enough, never being loved, and having things not available to us. So incredible. When you do the belief table, Tony Robbins' belief table, is it possible that I can actually do something? You always realize it. And yet we keep this inner chatter telling us all the time, do this and we can't do that. So we're stuck to this routine. We might hate less familiar.
But it's safe. What do we want? We're primed to stay safe. And so once we see those fears as not real, but a built-in mechanism just to stay safe, we can start to initiate the things that allow us to expand out of that.
So why drift and why do we numb ourselves when we are stuck in a life we don't like at all?
People don't want to be in pain, and sometimes the natural impulse, the wired impulse, or what we've learned and what society keeps telling us is to numb ourselves with food, numb ourselves with alcohol, numb ourselves with Facebook and TV. And so we relieve the pain, and people are much more motivated. This is Psych 101. People are more motivated to stop pain than to seek pleasure. So what do? We numb.
Yeah. And today there was, I don't know if you're a Facebook user, but I just tried a thing from, I think it's called Brian Johnson. He's a guy that wants to die. So he spent millions and millions of dollars and has a team of doctors, and they are working out the formula, science, foods, and sleep routine, so he will never die. He'll be ageless. And he's doing the discoveries, nutritionist, but he's making all these discoveries. And today he went there with a carton, a box from some fancy company that had all these delicious looking cupcakes. He said, look at this delicious, irresistible cupcake, like this is 30% sugar, this is 50%, this is 80% sugar. And he was showing this. And he said, this is not a treat. He said, this is death. This is diabetes, which is cause of 7 types of cancer. And these people should test it, he was saying. And I'm like, yeah, isn't it true? If you want to be or have social media and the adverts keep coming you, is that with all the treats are things actually going to make you ill. Even in the hospital, you see people dying of cancer or the intermediate parts, and they go to the hospital, it's full of cookies, full of sugar, and you can only buy junk food. And I'm like, why everywhere? We're surrounded by easy vape, cigarettes, and advertising. And why the government is not stopping this? It's gonna cost us billions in health
down
bills.
The road. I'm always surprised when I hear people say, well, if I can't eat this, life isn't worth living. And we hear that everywhere, we should be able to do what we want to do, and instead of stopping to really question that, we just take it as a fact, well, this is what I want to do. Well, why do you want to do that? Why would you rather eat in a way that's going to kill you than live to see your grandchildren? I mean, we just don't push against these platitudes or what the industries want us to be good consumers. So we eat highly palatable processed food that's going to kill us.
And yet we know, or perhaps most of us will understand that certain types of food are not supposed to. And I see, and you see people that come to you and I can never, if I go out, my friends will want me to smoke or drink or have drugs or eat at whatever group it is. They'll expect me to eat the cake, otherwise I'm going to offend them. And I was like, sure, when you're diabetic and you have to have injection every day, they're not there to help you because they're not offended. You're on your own with a disease that can kill you. But when they're all pushing you to have it. And I'm like,
I know alcohol's the only drug we have to justify not taking. But I tell a lot of my clients, especially that are in sort of the same generation I am, want to eat healthy and get pressure from family or friends, to eat what's in front of them, what everybody else is eating. And I say, well, just tell them the doctor told you can't have it. Nobody ever argues. Well, if the doctor said that must be a reason, and then they leave them alone, whether the doctor said it or not. So we're surrounded. People underestimate the importance of environment. It's much easier to have a healthy lifestyle, what I would consider a healthy lifestyle, when everybody around you has a healthy lifestyle. When everybody around you doesn't, it's much more of a struggle.
Because society has taught us we have to be like them. And I know primordially we connect to the others who want to be similar. So we tend to do the same thing. However, when somebody is doing something wrong, like the gang system, they're all doing criminal stuff. So to be in a group, I have to be with. Now, isn't there time to wake up a little bit and say, hey, perhaps my difficult life, which is difficult because I overate to cope trauma, or I drunk or whatever, to cope my unhappiness, maybe there is something there that we can change. It's starting to realize, well, but these thoughts and these needs coming from, how do I actually want to feel? And that's what I do with the smoking to me. I always say, okay, you're smoking all the time. When you have a cigarette, you're picking up because you're feeling uncomfortable and you're trying to feel what? What do you want to feel? And how else can you achieve that feeling? And sometimes in hypnosis, I make them prepare a list, all the things that they can do to achieve a feeling of happy and content that lasts at least 5 minutes. And most of them come up with like 20 just for that.
Yeah.
They know
Yeah, what we call it is in one of the programs I lead is a bigger, better offer. You know,
Mm.
we want that dopamine hit or the oxytocin. Okay, what's another way you can get that? And have
And
alternatives. Have a list of 50 other ways that you can relax besides
yes,
a drink or the chocolate
yes,
cake.
yes. So that's very interesting. So we are really in charge of what of life we want to live. Obviously,
Yes.
some people might live and say, "Oh, I'm not in charge because I'm deaf, blind, I'm overweight, I'm on a huge wheelchair, I got huge arthritis." We're in charge of everything that happens to us, but we're in charge of what we do about it,
Yeah.
what we think, our attitude, our mindset. And our friends who are in a wheelchair, who can walk, and they are happy people with all they can to live the best possible life. But then I have other friends who have a tiny issue compared to being stuck in a wheelchair, and they're making such a big mountain, and now we're blocked, and I
Yeah.
can't do it. And so they live is very difficult. I've grinded and oh, but I can't change because this has to, and that has to happen, and that has to happen. So they
Yeah.
blocked everything. And I know the map we have of the world is just the map. It's not the
Yeah.
world. Our
Right.
idea
Yeah. Yeah.
is
The
the
map is not the territory.
yes. Quoting my own teacher, Mike Mandel, one of the best hypnotherapists in the world, he always say, NLP stuff. The
Yeah.
map is not a real thing. Once we take off our own glasses, blank glasses, we see things differently. And it does happen that when we talk to somebody else who is different, we might just realize, well, actually, yes, there is an option I can do. I can do the university course even if I'm 40. I can
Yeah.
have a child even if I'm 40. I can start being healthy if I'm 300 kilos or 500 pounds. I can still do something. I can still do something to change. It's this part that sometimes we're missing. We want the easy solution, like, for example, Ozempic. Everybody, Ozempic. What's the fear paralyzing your stomach? How about learning some education about food, what food does to you, instead of having Ozempic?
Yeah. And I'm not again, I'm not like an anti-drug person. I don't, I think there's nothing actually redeeming about the food industry, but I do think there's some things redeeming about the pharmaceutical industry. So I'm not going to like bash drugs, but
No, of course.
it's challenging to change. And I think one of the things that people underestimate is trauma. You know, we hear so much about trauma and we think, well, it has to be 911 trauma. You know, we had to be assaulted or God forbid, raped, or we had to watch our mother get murdered. But when you're 2 years old, getting left at daycare accidentally is traumatic. And those memories are in there.
Yes.
And so I think a lot of people miss the connection between what was traumatic for them and how that has influenced how they see the world now.
Yes. One of my clients, he remember when he was tiny, he was screaming, 2 years old. He was in the cot and his mom at work. And she had to go. She had to leave him. When he was older, he was left on the road. He was 4 years old. He was on the road because she had to work, single mom. He had to work through all this trauma to understand I'm loved. She had to work because otherwise I would die of starvation. She didn't leave because she didn't love me.
Yeah.
And yet for all those years, he had kept this belief he's not lovable because mom
Yeah.
was not there. So yeah, very important. So let's go then to tips. I know you have a few good tips for our listeners how
Yeah.
to deal with this.
My first tip, it might be a little bit counterintuitive or surprising, but really the first thing I often tell clients is get a good night's sleep. You can't do anything. You can't run a marathon. I mean, that sort of is a metaphor. If you're exhausted, we need to take care of our nervous system. And as you know, we can't change unless we're in a relaxed, rested state. So the first step is to take care of our physical body, get enough sleep, eat the best you can, stay hydrated. Um, and the second thing is to, as much, and this is, somewhat cliche, but be around people who support you. Be around people who will encourage you. And there's this platitude that, well, you can't be loved until you love yourself. I disagree with that. I think sometimes we learn to love ourselves by being loved, by having healthy, nurturing relationships. And the third thing that I think is really important, and it's challenging to do, is have time, give yourself space. We have such crazy schedules and to-do lists that we don't take the time to just be and rest and think versus doing. Journal, whatever it is, journal, read, give yourself some time to be with yourself.
Yeah. I think it's important because nowadays, between music, radio, TV shows, sports, comedy, it just equals noise, and it's very hard to focus. Really matters if we have this continuous buzzing background thing going on, isn't it? So yeah,
we want to be entertained. I mean, look at who makes a lot of money. Entertainers. Because we, football players, sports, we want the distraction, we want the entertainment to distract ourselves, and we need some of that, but we also need to make sure that we're giving ourselves the time, the space to examine our lives. And so I think having a coach is, if you want to grow, you have to have someone who can show you what you can't see, what the path ahead can look like.
Yeah, because I think, we all need wholesome recreation with our families, do things that we like. Doesn't have to be expensive. Even just a walk around the block.
Exactly.
Just turn off everything, be with the person, and appreciate what you have now, because they might die and become ill or might leave. And so appreciate what you. There was another thought that came to my mind. You said something about being ourselves, etc. And what was the idea before that? Hold on a minute. You said, and I really wanted to catch it.
I know. What did I say? God, I was talking about sleep and rest and taking care of our nervous system.
Right. Attention.
Yes.
One word about attention, because I was talking to my daughter. She go to college, and sometimes it does is helping the people around her who are constantly scrolling on the phone while the poor tutor is to talk. I get bored. I got ADHD, so I have easy all the time. Okay, so how are you going to learn a specific subject if while the person is talking, you're constantly reading? I mean, you have two tracks full of thoughts coming to your brain. Your brain cannot cope with two different. One is going to be 6 minutes or 6 seconds on one side. They cannot really multitask this kind of learning because it's vocal things, words. You can't really do that. I understand that perhaps very sad in the media, they they want to be there and stay there. So they'll put little cliffhangers and hooks so you keep coming back.
Oh, sure.
Back. So you're always hooked to the next thing. So you scroll quick and you give a video 2 to 3 seconds before the next. So that is a constant dopamine high that makes it really hard then to find peace and quiet when there's no.
Yeah, it is. And so we have to be very intentional about our lives. And society doesn't want us to be intentional. Like I said, I think they want us to be good consumers, not rock the boat. So we need a little bit of like 60s critical thinking and and ask ourselves questions, give ourselves the space to think deeply about things rather than just give into constant distraction.
Yes, so it is. It's distraction and it's too much and it's every day, the whole day. So it's becoming, it's really the time, wow, what's going on here? Do I have to stop? And maybe it's a good time to stop a few things.
One of the things I wish actually someone had asked me 40 years ago, and one of the things I ask my clients is, where do you want to be in 5 years? Once you have a sense of where you want to be, how you want to feel, what direction you want to go in, it becomes more, we have a better sense of urgency to make good decisions now versus just drifting. And then, how many people do we see clients go, I don't know how I got here. I didn't think I would end up like this. What's wrong? And it's never too, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is today.
Well, they always say, what was the failing to plan, planning to fail. Because,
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that things turn out exactly the way we want, but we need to be, I believe we need to be intentional. And I don't mean this in a I don't know, crazy OCD way, but just to, not be a passenger in our vehicle of life, to drive the car.
Yeah. We want to be there. We want to be, be the pilot in your own.
And it's scary. Life is easier when you can blame other people. It's scary to make decisions.
It is take their responsibility and then realize, oh, I made a mistake. But when you make it, then a lot of times you can bounce back and go back to where, or maybe go to a new direction, and the growth is important. So
one of the things I think age more than anything else has taught me is that you don't ever really know what a mistake is, because things that look like a mistake, or gee, I wish I hadn't done that, 10 years from now, it could be the best decision you ever made. We just never, we never know.
Yeah, we never know. And the beauty of life, not to know what's going on, but also have, wow, what's going to happen, and being still enthusiastic about life when you're 60, when you're 70, when you're 80, wake up with us every day, knowing where you're going and knowing the steps, or most of the steps to a certain extent, so you feel the energy. And might be a really good cure for this zombiness of waking up, grinding every day to the same thing. And then in the end, we are patient and we regret, and I wish I became an artist, or I really to be a judge. I really wanted to be a dresser. I don't care what it is, but why didn't you do it? So take the responsibility, take the step,
and find a way to get some of it now. It's never too late. That's a lie I think we tell ourselves to avoid taking responsibility, avoid taking action.
Yes.
Even if you can't take it, the best advice I would also say is, if you can't take a big action, take a small action.
Take a small action. All right, that's good, because the time is over. So we have to close. If you cannot take a big action, take a small action. And it's made a little. So thank you so much, Dr. Schnell, for being here. It's been a pleasure. Maybe you will come back for some other thing.
I'd love to.
So if you love this episode, please write a review, click like, subscribe, do something good about this so we can follow, show, and get more tips on how to get the life that you deserve. And if you want to talk to Dr. Schnell, we will be putting links all over the place. So you can contact her and what she can do to help you to create the life that you want. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care. See you next week.